Nothing. Signal. I think we're good to start. Normal. Yeah. Hi everyone. I am. I'm gonna switch the slide. There we go. I think my face is up there. I'm Courtney Butler. I've been the program coordinator for the college support program for the past 4 years or so. And in that time, I've gotten to know these three individuals very, very well. I've seen their incredible growth. And more importantly, I think that I've made some really good lifelong friends by being in this position. And so I'm going to not talk so much because I know that you all really want to hear what they have to say. And so I'm going to let everybody introduce themselves and then we'll jump right into questions. So Adam, if you want to start.
Okay, now can you guys hear me? Okay, so I'm Adam. I'm going to be a senior this upcoming year. I'm majoring in communication and I have minors in both sport management and psychology. I was a member of the college support program my freshman year. But while I'm no longer in the college support program, I've been collaborating with Courtney and everyone here at the center. And I'm just been honored to be part of the task force and just being a part of today's event in general. So, yeah.
I'm Jane. I just graduated a month ago. I was a major in psychology and a double minor in creative writing and Italian. And I'm going to be starting my first year at the Rutgers School of Social Work in the fall.
Hello. Oh, awesome. There we go. My name is Cameron. I'm a transfer student to Rutgers. I'm currently working towards a bachelor's in aerospace engineering. I have been with the college support program. I'm still in the college support program, and I've been here since the beginning of 2021. And I've honestly thoroughly enjoyed my time here. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, guys. So we're going to jump right into questions. And so the first one is a pretty general question that I know you all have been asked many times, specifically by me. But what does having a diagnosis of autism mean to you? And do you feel as though autism kind of defines who you are? So anybody that wants to start.
I do not believe that autism defines who I am as an individual. I believe it actually enhances me as an individual because it presents me with challenges that I can be proud of overcoming, and it helps me see the world differently, which allows me to pick up on things that no one else tends to notice. And it helps me empathize with others, but it doesn't define who I am. And I think that's because I don't think about it too much, if that makes sense. I just I don't go around every minute of my life thinking I have autism, I have autism, I have autism. It may be how other people define me, and that's unfortunate, but it's fine. Some people might look at me as just the girl who has autism, and but that's not how I define myself. And I think that's mostly because I don't really there's not really anything that defines me. Like, I am a woman, but that doesn't define everything that I am. So it's just sort of how I see defining what the definition of me is. Sorry.
Yeah, I would say that my situation is actually pretty similar. I really wouldn't say that my diagnosis actually defines me because like I'm walking around, same thing. And, I have autism, I have autism, I have autism to every single person I know. I do think it does give a different perspective sometimes, though, especially in social interactions. Like, for example, I went to a friend's house last week, was talking to a bunch of people, but as soon as I left, when I was driving home, in the car, in the back of my mind, I'm replaying half the social interactions I had because I was worried about the social cues and the social skills. And maybe it's because I'm a communication major. Maybe I've just gotten a little bit better with it over time, but it's still something that I guess I'm probably going off topic here a little, but it's still something that I'm fairly concerned about and what I think about, I guess, when I think of my diagnosis.
All right. So for me, autism it's always really been an explanation as to my habits, my quirks, etc. With the way that I act in situations. It's it sort of relates to that. I know there's that controversy recently regarding referring to someone as a person who has autism or as an autistic person, like the difference between the two. And for me, it's definitely I always thought it's not who I am, certainly, but it's a integral part of the whole in a way. It's like I don't know, like how, you know, a sail is not all that is to a boat, but it's an integral part of, you know, what makes it work, what makes it go. And I would say that encapsulates what it is to me.
Thank you all for that. And so this might be more of a tough question, but so what do you all think is some of the most damaging misconceptions that people have of you as an autistic person, and particularly an autistic student at the university?
All right, I got this. I think for me, with that question, the thing that immediately jumps to mind is probably the most damaging is the idea that autistic people don't feel emotions, that, you know, they're essentially like robots in human skin. To me, because you know, because I feel emotion, I feel, and frankly, it's quite the opposite. I feel too much emotion more often than not. Any minor inconvenience becomes this terrible detriment. Any moment of happiness is the greatest elation. And it's, you know, and of course, what I feel and what other people see, what I present as feeling, can be different things, certainly. And I think that's where a lot of the misconception comes in. But I assure you, I do, in fact, feel emotions.
So I personally have never heard of the misconception that people with autism don't feel anything. But I find that some of the most common misconceptions about people in general on the spectrum is the idea of, you always hear the term high functioning and low functioning. And I think different people have different definitions and ideas of those two categories and who belongs in them. I've been called high functioning a lot, but I think that not only can it be insulting, it's also a way for a non-autistic person to incorrectly make judgments. If you say that someone is low functioning, then you're underestimating them, and you're missing out on the wonderful things that they have to offer. Not just, I mean, and that's not just because, you know, whether you're low functioning or high functioning, you know, we're all, I mean, everyone with autism is a person, and everyone who's a person has something valuable to offer. But the thing is, just because you categorize someone as low functioning, or you think that they're low functioning, quote unquote, is ignoring the wonderful contributions that they can make to society. Because I think that, in my opinion, people can be high functioning, you know, quote unquote, and I don't really like that term, but I would define it as comfortable and successful in some situations. You can be high functioning in some situations and low functioning in others. For example, I have a hard time writing a paper in a situation with too much noise. So you might say, oh, well, she's low functioning because she can't write a paper with too much noise. But no, if you just take the noise out, I can do the task. I just can't do, it's harder for me when there's a certain thing going on in the background. So I think I would say, please remember that we all have different strengths and weaknesses. And just because it might be harder to function in the correct way that society expects us, it doesn't mean that we aren't functioning at all. We're just expressing our strengths in less obvious ways.
Yeah, I think for me, the biggest thing, biggest misconception that I've noticed, especially at Rutgers, has to do with just, and I believe this was touched upon before, but really the idea that neurodivergent students aren't even supposed to make it to this point. So that misconception, when it leads into the classroom, you automatically think that that person's gonna sit in the back of a room or be quiet or maybe not perform as well academically. And at least in my situation, I felt it was the complete opposite. I'm the guy who tries sitting in the front row of every class, tries making the connection with my professor and my fellow students, and my grades are pretty good. So it's one of those things where I feel like you just get so underestimated, and it could really take a toll on you.
Thanks, everyone. And Adam, I think that kind of leads perfectly into our next question. Kind of switching gears, really talking about you as Rutgers students, current, past, and future students. And so what is your diagnosis led to with your successes as a student, and where have you maybe felt some impacts on the success because of your diagnosis at the university?
Yeah, so in terms of successes, I would say that I credit most of my successes in terms of my diagnosis to my time in the college support program, because that first year I was at Rutgers, I really felt I needed a lot of help with independence and time management, and learning how to be a college student, because I was never away from home before. So I felt like I got a lot out of it during my time in the program, and I'm obviously grateful for that. But I think that's definitely my biggest success in terms of my diagnosis. In terms of the negatives, it's hard to say, honestly, because at least in my situation, I don't know if I've really been hindered too much by my diagnosis. I mean, yeah, there are certain things that might come up here and there between professors, like just having to tell them about my accommodations, but I feel I've been lucky in that sense, just not having to worry about it as much. But I definitely can't speak for everyone on that. It's definitely something to be worried about.
So I feel like if my diagnosis has hindered me in any way, it's mostly been in high school. I don't think it's really, I don't think any of that, any of the struggles that autism presents have really affected me in terms of like academic life in college. It hindered me in high school because, it's high school. It's a very fast-paced, environment, and they care about, getting the work. They care about getting the work done. And I specifically struggled in classes, particularly in my music classes. And I don't know, I don't really know why specifically those classes, but it mostly had to do with the fact that the teachers made it very hard to feel like I belonged in that community, and they set up social they definitely sort of made me feel like I didn't have the right to speak and be part of that community because I had such a hard time taking social cues and stuff. I feel like that's different. I feel like I haven't really felt that in college because a lot of people are more accepting. And because Rutgers is so big, you can always find your little community of friends. You can always find a community of friends. If you have a falling out with your friends on Livingston, you can always go to Bush or, whatever. But for academic wise, I think there are just some accommodations that teachers just can't provide. For example, I was once put in because I usually would go to Livingston for my accommodations, and they put me in a room that was right, and it wasn't their fault, but they put me in a room that was in the student center, and outside the student center they were blaring music, and it was so hard to concentrate. It would have been, and I did get extended time. I got extended time, but it would have been easier if I'd gotten not extended time with no music. than extended time with the music. So it's not their fault. It's just an unfortunate occurrence. And I feel like there are a lot of sort of unfortunate occurrences, like the room that I used to go to, I remember was always really hot. Like, I don't know, it's just little things that you can't make accommodations for. You can't accommodate everything that I need. And I need probably a little bit more than everybody else needs, if that makes sense. So yeah.
So I guess actually similar to your experiences, it was I was diagnosed with autism at 18. It was the tail end of high school, and I hated high school, to be honest. I despised it, but because it was just but after getting the diagnosis, and then I went on, of course, to like I said, I transferred here. So before this, I was at Sussex Community College, and I got like some help, accommodations, like extended time, what have you. But I didn't honestly. So after that, I came here to Rutgers, and it was really and being a part of the college support program was really the first time since my diagnosis that I really thought about and considered my diagnosis by having autism, and what it I was more introspective about that, I guess. And I think I'm all the better off for it, certainly. I think the biggest impact of being here is just understanding myself more, really. And I'm definitely happier for it.
So I'm going to ask one more question because I want to make sure that we can all have you ask the questions that you want. And so I think the biggest question that we all want to know is, what can we as university officials, what can the university as a whole do to better support you as autistic students at the university? What can we make your experience here? What can we do to make your experience here better?
Go. I would say it ties back into what I had just said about, there are very little things that people don't consider, such as noise in the classroom, or the way that a teacher looks at you, or the way that a teacher, or this is mainly from high school experiences, but there are certain ways that teachers can talk to you that make you feel like you're bothering them. And again, so I think it would just be willing to listen to the students and what they have to say about, and it might seem kind of unfair, but the facial expressions that people make really are effective really affect me emotionally. And I would love it if there's certain people who I wish would work on their facial expressions in front of me. And again, like the little things, I always feel kind of afraid to ask the people at ODS, like, can you please not make it so hot in here? Can you please? And I wish that I knew, I don't know, maybe I did have the option 3 years ago to say to the proctors who were running that one exam, like, can you, like, I can't concentrate with the music, with the music. Like, I know it's not your fault. And I know it might be a little I know it might be unfair, but like, is there any way that I can maybe reschedule to a time where there's not music blaring? So being able to listen to those little things that we need.
So I'm going to preface what I'm going to say with that 99% of the professors I've had here, and even my teachers in high school, if they did anything wrong, it was probably due to just lack of education on the topic. But the thing I said before about just being underestimated, I think that can play a big role in it, because I've had professors where once again I'm sitting in the front row and then I tell them about my accommodations and they have that really surprised look on their face, like they wouldn't expect that to be the case. And because of ODS and CSP and really everyone involved, getting my actual accommodations hasn't been much of an issue. But I feel like professors should just, this is a generic answer, but have more training and maybe be more open-minded on the types of students that are going to get certain accommodations, and just be ready to handle anything that could be thrown at them, which is obviously tough to do and would take a lot of time and effort. But I think it's something that's definitely doable and would be a very good step forward for Rutgers.
All right, so I'm all right, so I'm going to address the elephant in the room here. If a class can be online, it should. I of course, when I say can be, obviously I don't mean the big ones with labs and what have you. But if it's but the fact that I can, but as someone with autism, if I can be in a if I can just learn from a class in the comfort of my own bedroom, where I can control the lights, I can control the noise, everything is exactly how I like it, I can learn from that. I can learn with that. I don't have to worry about music and professors and all sorts of stuff like butting in. It's it's all under my control, and I think we need to, the last 2 years prove that they, for the most part, online classes can work, and I think there needs to be more emphasis on them going forward, in all things considered.
Thank you all so much for your responses. Can we give them a round of applause? Now I'm going to open it up to all of you. I'm sure you have questions. We have time for questions. Yeah, okay. Does anybody have any questions for our panelists?
So a lot of you spoke on how you receive accommodations for certain situations and stuff. Have you ever experienced when the accommodations went a little too far and they maybe overstepped your line of independence, or they kind of stepped into that area of like ableism where they underestimated your abilities to handle certain things?
I would say that could be a double-edged sword. I haven't necessarily experienced that because all the accommodations I've had, like, for example, extra time on exams, that's what I knew I needed, what I signed up for. So I wouldn't really say that there's a sense of ableism there, or at least nothing noticeable. But yeah, I don't really know.
I find that certainly in the CSP community, I get sort of the opposite of that, because I think everybody here realizes that I am capable of doing things like this. And I think they know that it's okay to put a little bit, to put a little bit of responsibility on my shoulders, because I'm not an undergrad student anymore, but I was a college student, and I should be responsible for my own life. And college support program, I feel like, never shied away from saying, like, Jane, you got to do your work. I mean, we're going to help you the best we can. And they did. Absolutely. They helped me with little insignificant, not insignificant, like little things that don't have to do with the work, if that makes sense. Like, they would reach out to professors if there was a situation with other students. And that felt good. It didn't feel like it undermined my autonomy, because it felt like they were doing me a favor. But because Courtney and everyone from CSP trusts me to like come here and do this, that gives me a sense of autonomy. The other stuff they do for me just feels like kind of like sort of a right that I'm entitled to. And that's why I like that they do that for me.
Sorry, I got nothing. Yeah, basically what they said. It, especially with the CSP, it's more uh, they're helping you lay a foundation for being successful on your own. Like I suck at time management. That's a big issue. And with the CSP, what they've done is, I meet with a coordinator once a week where they break down exactly how my week is going to go, exactly what I'm going to do every single day of the week. And it helps tremendously. And as time goes on, I've gotten better at doing it myself, certainly. And it's been an uphill battle, but it's helped me to get better as a person.
May I say, oh, sorry, I don't know if you were finished.
Oh, no.
I just want to say one more awesome thing about CSP is that I feel like they're very flexible with me. Because we have our peer mentor meetings, we have peer mentor meetings twice a week, once for each peer mentor. They're very flexible about, like, we try to set a specific time and place that we'll have the meeting. Like my coordinator, Lauren, will say, okay, so you're going to meet with these people at this time on this day. But if you don't want to, like, if you'd rather meet on a different day and do something different, that's fine. Like they give me a lot of autonomy, and they allow me to kind of be flexible, especially when it comes to the services that they offer, like tutoring and the study sessions, and like having an academic coordinator. They always say, they don't say we're going to force you to have this, like they didn't say to me, at least, like we're going to force you to have this these services. They asked me, do you want this? And eventually I didn't need them anymore, and CSP and Courtney and everybody said, okay, that's great, then you don't need it anymore, it's your choice. So, yeah.
Does anybody else have any questions for our panelists? If not, I will add one more question if we have time. So I feel like we've really talked about academics because obviously you're first and foremost students here. And so we talk about academics continuously from week to week, and that is the point of this kind of whole conversation. What we didn't touch on is interpersonal relationships. And so how do you all feel like you do with forming interpersonal relationships, potentially with students on campus, professors, deans, advisors? And do you feel like the services at Rutgers support your need for support, or potentially your need for support at the university? How do you feel like we do as a university in that department?
Yeah, so when it comes to interpersonal relationships, like making friends, talking to professors, I've always felt that I was pretty good at that because I'm a very outgoing, sociable person. I mean, I'm talking to all of you right now in front of a giant crowd. So I think I've always been okay with that. But I will say that that there's at Rutgers, the university as a whole obviously has work to do. Well, I'll start with CSP. When I was in CSP, they did great things to help you socially, because of your mentors, which we've touched upon, like that could benefit you greatly if you just need an extra friend on campus, like another student that you have a designated time to meet up with. So there are definitely things within CSP and ODS that help you with that. With Rutgers, the university itself, I think there's still more work to do. That's obviously why we have the Taskforce, why we're all here in the first place. But I would say that we're getting there, but there's still leaps and bounds of things that the university as a whole can do to help improve.
So I'm extremely extroverted, and I feel like Rutgers does do a great job of, obviously they're not perfect, but I feel like they do a good job of facilitating interpersonal relationships. I personally love, like, the peer mentors are absolutely one of my favorite parts of CSP because there's the two that I was paired with this year. They're like still some of my best friends. And I really like the way that people like Courtney and everybody else in CSP kind of treats me like a friend. That's what I find. They let me use the kitchen, and they have conversations with me while I work in the kitchen. And I feel like because Rutgers has, I mean, I guess this is more of a student run. I mean, I guess the extracurricular activities are more student run, but you know, there's like so many different clubs, and you can try out all of these clubs, and sometimes it's just trial and error. You never know. I found that you never know who you're going to fit in with, but there's so many opportunities to fit in and find just that right person. And if we're talking about like interpersonal, like other kinds of interpersonal relationships, I personally I'm very good at forming friendships with pretty much anybody, and also the teachers I feel like are very easy to talk to. I know this is probably very off topic, but I have an incredibly hard time with romantic relationships. I've never had a romantic relationship because I don't understand certain social cues. I don't really know how to ask a person out. I don't know how to know when they're asking me out. And I guess that's not really something that Rutgers can really help with, but I'm not blaming Rutgers for that. I mean, I'm sure there's, you know, I'm sure fraternities are kind of like matchmakers, but you know, that's a struggle that that I have to deal with, but I feel like Rutgers is doing a good job with all of the with all of the options that they offer.
All right, so I'm on the exact opposite side of the spectrum. I'm terribly introverted. I don't know how you guys do that. Talk to people. I've got like exact friends, and similar to your case, like I had like a girlfriend for 6 months. I think that's my quota for my life. So from that opposite side of the spectrum, like the cool thing about Rutgers is there's so much potential in terms of getting to know people of all kinds, from anywhere in the world, and with all sorts of interests. And it's only a matter of applying yourself, which is again something I'm not good at, but that's the impressive thing about it. And the same thing goes for college support program. You know, I've they have the peer mentors who I made some good friends of those. I made some good friends even here with these panelists for these conferences, and it's a matter of it's just there's so much out there to look for. All you have to do is go and look.
Oh, this has a question. Does he need a microphone?
Hi, guys. Great job so far. I do have one last question based on a topic that actually came up in Julietta's talk earlier, where, you know, a running theme that has come up in talking to students in the CSP and their families about the cost of CSP, because of course, CSP isn't provided for free by the university, like services for accommodations through ODS are. CSP services can be kind of costly for individuals and their families. It typically costs $3,500 a semester for a student to participate in the program. And just was wondering if any of you had any thoughts about, the need to have to pay for these supports that all of you have expressed seem to be pretty critical to your ultimate success at the university. And if you have any, thoughts on, alternate mechanisms for running this kind of program. And of course, at the RCAS, from the administrative side, we continue to look for other sources of funding, and they're really just not out there. I don't think the world has caught up to understanding, what autistic people really need in terms of accommodations for accessibility in higher ed or otherwise. We're going to continue to do that advocacy work, but was wondering if any of you had thoughts on the need to actually pay to get these services that seem to be so critical.
Yeah, I think cost is always going to be a hurdle, unfortunately. In a perfect world, Rutgers would be able to completely fund this building and everything that CSP offers. I mean, that's what I feel like most people would say. But the reality is, if that's not going to happen in the immediate future, my best just idea off the top of my head for helping other students who may not be able to afford this program or maybe didn't even know about it initially would just to be maybe offer open houses or something just for students to students on the spectrum to meet other students who are in CSP. So even if they can't meet with peer mentors or have a coordinator, they could still feel involved in certain communities.
Okay, so I have a lot of things to say. I personally never had a problem paying because my mom works here, so I got free tuition. So all the money I saved to pay for my tuition went to CSP. But I think it is very incredibly important to, and I think the way that with how well specifically with this building CSP has been running, and I think President Holloway has been here. Hopefully one day there will be some funding from Rutgers. And I think CSP is getting better and better. Not that they were bad before, but I feel like they are improving. And maybe it'll make people like President Holloway realize that he needs to fund this. But I also think that, maybe and I could certainly help as an alumni, maybe a CSP alumni could help set up a fund for sort of a charity for where past alumni or their friends or their families can donate money to the building, or to the program, so that the program will have the money that they would have needed to charge that $3,500, and maybe there wouldn't be enough money raised to obviously eliminate the cost. There probably would still be a cost, but maybe if the program earned enough money every year, the costs could go down to 3,000. I really don't know, but my mom, I know, still donates some money every year to her college that she went to. And I'm just sort of thinking maybe this could be something that maybe once I have a steady job, maybe when I'm older and I have kids and I have a steady job, I could donate a portion to CSP, and maybe I could encourage everyone else to do that too. So charity.
Yeah, so I'm not going to pretend that I know the economics of funding a program like this. That being said, this really should be the gold standard for how accommodations are done in Rutgers. It's absolutely worth it. I will say, I think from a utilitarian perspective, if you're front and center about this kind of program, that opens up the possibility for a lot of people who never would have come to Rutgers beforehand, coming here because of such a program being offered, and therefore more money to be spent on programs, potentially. It's beyond that, I don't know, maybe offer I get some state aid from a couple organizations, maybe find those and have them plastered all over the website to make sure that people know that if you don't have the money for it, here are some places where you can get some help. You just got to do whatever you can to make sure that people get the help they need, and because this program offers it, certainly.
Yeah, if I can actually bounce off of that, CSP was definitely one of the main reasons, if not the deciding factor for why I came to Rutgers. Because
Same.
yeah, because I'm from New York. I'm paying out of state tuition. So I was trying to make sure that I'm putting myself in the best situation possible for my college education and obviously my career, just like everyone else. Yeah, I mean, if some of the funds for tuition could immediately be moved into a fund for CSP, then yeah.
That's something that Rutgers probably should consider, is that, they're obviously, we're paying a lot of money for our tuition. Obviously that money goes to Rutgers, and Rutgers needs to realize that, hey, some of that money came from CSP, because so many people, CSP wasn't the, deciding factor for me, but for these, for these two and some other people, it was the deciding factor. So Rutgers wouldn't be, Rutgers wouldn't be earned. There's a lot of money that Rutgers wouldn't have made if it wasn't for CSP. So they need to realize that. And I feel like if we just kind of let them know that, like, hey, there are so many people here and they can speak, and those people such as you guys can speak to the fact that you guys probably wouldn't be here if it wasn't for CSP. Like, let everybody know that, because it'll just highlight the importance of CSP. And I like what you said about gold standard. I feel like this is the gold standard for like any university, not just Rutgers, but yeah.
We have one more question from Kim.
Thank you guys for your candor and your honesty, your feedback, your participation. As someone who, when I first came back to Rutgers, as you know, I started working for CSP, and I can say that I can attest to what they're saying is absolutely true. There were so many families who said, I'm coming to Rutgers because of the reputation of the college support program. And, if I had $1 for every crier, quite frankly, who would say, for example, I'm a single parent, I can barely afford tuition. My son or daughter is an honor student. I know they will get into Rutgers. I know they will get into this program and benefit it completely, but I can barely afford tuition, let alone this extra $7,000. And on the other end of the spectrum, I would talk to families who would say, I need my son or daughter in this program yesterday. It was sometimes someone who was at Rutgers, and they just found out about CSP, and they'd say, where are you located? I'm coming down. I can write you a check today. And I'm like, wait, that's not how it works. You have to apply. But it just, those conversations would keep me up at night, because there was such a discrepancy with who could access these support services, based on their socioeconomic status. So, I appreciate this ongoing dialogue, and it is very, very real. And as someone who has spoken to many, many parents, caregivers, support coordinators over the years, funding continues to be top of mind status.
Thanks, Kim. And I will just add on to that these three know very well that the college support program, we've got 2 full-time staff, close to 30 students, but obviously, as Kim's mentioning, we get inquiries every day for students that are looking to come to our program, that are looking to come to Rutgers because of these supports. And I will take no credit for that at all. I've overseen the program, but it really is the dedication of the entire Rutgers Center for Adult Autism Services that is backing us and making sure that the students have all of the support that they need. I do think that this program is necessary for the growth of a lot of students, not everyone, but a lot of students. And so again, I think that funding is necessary for this program, because with 2 full-time staff and only 30 students, Julietta showed the prevalence rates. We have thousands of other students that really should be getting the support that they need, but I think that this cost is a major barrier for a lot of those students. And so I will just kind of end with thanking you all for being aware of the college support program, for being aware of the students that have made this program really what it is, because without you all, we wouldn't exist. And thank you for your honesty, because I think that this is exactly what everybody wants to hear, is all of your opinions and your personal statements about what it's like to be a student with this diagnosis at the university. So thank you.